Hi, everyone. Welcome in to today's exclusive webinar. I'm Claire from Programa. I am so thrilled you could all join us today. We'd love to hear where you're dialing in from and what your favorite Programa feature is. Feel free to drop it in the comments. Today, you'll all get access to see exactly how award-winning designer Alessandra Smith runs her high-end residential projects. This isn't just a theory. You'll see her actual 6-stage workflow in action on a real project she's working on as we speak, the Snug Club. Alessandra has increased her project capacity significantly over the past 3 years, all while maintaining the quality and client satisfaction her studio is known for. And today she's going to show you exactly how she does it. So without further ado, I'm going to hand this over to Alessandra. She'll walk you through her systematic approach that has truly transformed her practice.
Hi everyone. Firstly, I'd just like to thank the team at Programa for the opportunity to present today. My name is Alessandra and I'm the principal designer of Alessandra Smith Design, and we're an interior decoration studio based here in Melbourne, Australia. As an interior decorator, my primary focus is on curating a unique selection of furniture, lighting, art and objects. And ultimately, it's my mission to make the design process transparent, collaborative, and stress-free. It is really important to me that the design process is fun, not only for the client, but also for myself. And that is where Programa comes in. I have been using Programa now for over 2.5 years, and it has played an integral role in streamlining my design process. And over those 2.5 years, I've increased how I use Programa. And now, 2.5 years in, I am using it across every stage of my 6-stage design process. So today, I want to show you what that process actually looks like in practice and how Programa has helped me to streamline it. Okay, so today I'm going to be sharing with you my 6-stage design process, and I'm going to go through the workflows that I've built that have allowed me to spend more time designing and less time being bogged down in admin. But before I dive into the process itself, I'd just like to give you some background on how I came into design and why building good systems is so important to me. Okay, so a bit about my background. I have a very unconventional journey into design. I was actually a pharmacist for 10 years before I made the decision to pursue my passion and dedicate myself towards interiors. So in 2022, I made the decision to go back to school and study a certificate of interior decoration. 6 months into studying, I opened up my studio. Hi everyone. Firstly, I'd just like to thank the team at Programa for the opportunity to present today. Really exciting for my business. I've navigated some really exciting growth, but also faced some significant challenges, particularly due to the fact that I did start my business right at the start of an economic downturn. Given this, I have found though that starting in amidst a really tricky economic climate has actually forced me to dig deep, step outside my comfort zone, as evident by me being here today, and look to find efficiencies in my work which have allowed me to scale over those years. For me, leaving pharmacy was about finding joy in my work, and that's why it is so important to me to have a system and a process that works effectively, that I have confidence in, and that in turn instills confidence in my clients. At the start, when I first started my business, the back end, in short, was really quite chaotic and messy. I lacked business skills, I was intimidated by spreadsheets, and I was losing time to manual admin when it came to putting together things like schedules. And also just keeping track of client communications was really onerous when you're going back and forth in conversations, and when it came to getting client approvals on what could be dozens and dozens of pieces of furniture. So when I first started, the biggest challenge was how much admin drained my time and energy and how it was distracting me from the creative side of design. And ultimately, that was the reason why I left pharmacy in the first place. It was to find joy in my work. It was so I could be more creative. And so this was a challenge that I knew was really important to address, which was why shortly after starting my business, it was about 6 months in, I signed up to Programa. So that was what I started with. There was a lot of passion for design, but there was really not much structure behind the scenes. And so today I want to show you how I turned that all around into a robust system that I'm able to implement across all my projects. Okay, so my 6-stage design process, I was really fortunate last year to be the recipient of the Design Coach Scholarship, and together with Andrew Mitchell, he helped me to create this really robust framework. So it begins with stage 1, initial consultation, which is followed by briefing, concept and schematic. Then we move into stage 3, which is trade day. Stage 4 is design development. Stage 5, procurement, and we finish off with stage 6, design management and styling. I'm going to walk you through each stage and show you how Programa integrates at every step to help streamline the workflow. So with that being said, let's start at the beginning, which is stage 1, initial consultation. Okay, so stage 1 kicks off when I receive a client inquiry. So for me, these usually come through via my website and I receive an email. And the first thing I do is I capture that inquiry in a dedicated CRM, and I've created that CRM within Programa. So when you go into Programa, you have the ability to create a project. And in the same way that you would create a project is the same way that you create a CRM. So mine is called ASD CRM. You click into your CRM and you will see a section that says project management. And within that project management is how I track all of my leads. So using that project management tool, it helps me to track the full journey of a lead from that initial email inquiry, which then goes on to the discovery call, which then leads to the initial consultation. Following the consultation, I will submit a fee proposal, and then if the client is happy to go ahead, I will send them a contract and then an invoice for the deposit. So the CRM allows me to track the status of each lead, and I can also log the time that I spend on each stage of that client journey. So when you click into the tile within the CRM, you can time track. So you can say how much time you're spending putting together your fee proposals, how much time you spent on the initial consultation, and all of that data really helps you to know how much time you're spending on client acquisition. So once the client signs and pays the deposit, that's when I set up their project in Programa and include all the custom phases aligned to their scope. So this slide just gives you an example of what my CRM looks like and how I've structured it. So I use that Kanban style, which is those 4 columns. The first column to do, second is in progress, followed by in review and then done. So in the to-do column, that is where I place all of those inquiries that come through via email. And the way that I capture it is I write the client name, and then next to the client name, I'll put what suburb their project is at. When you click into that tile, the first thing I do when I receive the email is I set 2 tasks for myself. One is to respond to the email, and the second task is to organize the discovery call. So basically, once I've responded to the email, within that email response, I'll send the lead a link to my calendar where they can book in a time for the discovery call. Once we've had the discovery call, I move their tile into the in progress column. This means that we are now at that stage where we've booked in a time for the initial consultation. And that initial consultation is that meeting where I'll go to their house to gather a really thorough scope of work. Once we've done the initial consultation, then I move their tile into in review, because following the initial consultation, I'll put together the fee proposal and then send them the fee proposal. So we're at that stage where I'm waiting on their feedback on the fee proposal. Then if they're happy to move ahead with the project, that's when I will send them my contract and an invoice for the deposit, and they'll move into the done column. Or they might choose not to move ahead. I will still move them into done, and I'll put a label on it whether they've confirmed or declined. So this allows me to keep track of conversions as well. So one feature that I love with using my CRM like this is that you can set dates within each tile. So I check my CRM almost every day, I would say. And so when I go in, I can see if a date is highlighted in red, which means that it's time for me to follow up with that client. So for example, I will send the fee proposal on a Monday and I want to make sure that I'm following up with them within a week. So I'll change the date to a week's time. And then once that date rolls around, if I haven't heard from the client by that date, it prompts me to reach out to them. And what this means is that nothing slips through the cracks, and it gives me clarity and control over my pipeline, and I know where exactly each client is sitting at all times. So once a client has signed on, they moved into the done column and their project is officially underway. Okay, so when a project is confirmed, I will onboard that project into Programa and create a new project dedicated to that client. One of the first things you do when you create a new project is set up those project management, set up the project management details within that project. So this allows you to track how the project is tracking along each stage. Now with the project management tool, I use it from the beginning from stage 1 right through to stage 6. So I showed you just then how I use project management for initial consultations, and that's stage 1. Now in terms of how I use it throughout the actual process from stages 2 to 6, there are different ways that you can use it. So you have your board view, your list view, and your timeline view. And depending on how your brain works, you will decide on what view works best for you. I really love to use board view, which is that Kanban style that I just showed you with the columns. But the timeline view is also really effective, as this is just an example of the timeline view, as it gives you a bird's eye view of all of your projects. So you can see where your projects are overlapping and you can anticipate where your resource needs are and if you need to bring in additional help with contractors. It's also really handy because it helps you to spot gaps in your pipeline, which might prompt you to do some renewed marketing activity. Another fantastic feature of project management is time tracking. So I time track everything from the moment I get initial inquiry through every stage of my design process. So I can track the hours that I spend on my concept presentations, putting together design development presentation, how much time I spend on the phone with contractors, site visits, client meetings. And then what that means at project completion, I have so much data there that shows me exactly how much time I've invested, which enables for accurate forecasting when it comes to pricing future projects, and just ensures that I'm getting adequately remunerated for my time and energy. So it's not just about keeping projects on track. It's about using that data to improve your pipeline, your pricing, and your profitability. Okay, so moving into stage 2. Stage 2 is briefing, concept, and schematic. So stage 2 is where the project officially kicks off, and we kick off the project with a briefing meeting. Ahead of the briefing meeting, I will send my client a onboarding questionnaire. That questionnaire is intended to flesh out their brief. What are their functional requirements, their aesthetic requirements, what design styles they're drawn towards. I even ask them more personal questions like their favorite countries to travel to, and their favorite designers, favorite music to listen to. I find all of this information really helps to paint the picture of who they are, what motivates them, what inspires them, and ultimately that allows me to create a really personalized and bespoke design for them. I will also ask my clients to set up a Pinterest board, which is for them to pin images that are conveying the overall mood and feel of what they're wanting to achieve. And then once I have their completed questionnaire and their Pinterest board, I will prepare for the briefing meeting by putting together a pin board in Programa. So the way that I do this is I firstly create my pin board in Pinterest, And then with Programa, you have the ability to copy paste the Pinterest URL into the pinboard. And then you can select the images from Pinterest that you want to upload to your pinboard. So I find this really helpful just because basically basically what I do is I show up to the briefing meeting with that pinboard, and then we go through each of the images, and I find that by them seeing a visual, it sparks an immediate reaction from them. We know straight away whether they like something or whether they don't. And by using the pinboard, you can capture those clients' initial reaction by leaving notes on each image. So yeah, this is just a really great way to help spark conversation and help us identify what the client love and what they don't love. So to illustrate how I use Programa across every stage of my process, today I'm going to show you with a real life project that I have, which is called Snug Club. So Snug Club is a self-contained studio in Fitzroy, and it's centered around a conversation pit. And it's been a really exciting project to work on, as the client wants a really bold, adventurous scheme leaning into rich color, lots of clashing pattern, and really evocative 70s vintage pieces. So I'm going to show you what my pinboard for Snug Club looked like. And this is an example of it here. And when you click into some of the images, you'll see that I've written notes on them as well, which captured the client feedback. And I broke down my pinboard into categories. So the first category is the mood, followed by some upholstery ideas, and then dining setting and window dressings. Okay. Okay, so following the briefing meeting, that's when I go away and put together the concept presentation. So what I include in the concept really is dependent on what the scope of work is, but for the purpose of Snug Club, what we included in the concept was mood boards, a design narrative, furniture floor plan. I presented 2 color schemes, and I also present furniture pieces that are intended to convey the indicative tone and feel. They may not be the exact pieces that we'll go ahead with, but they're designed to demonstrate to the client the idea. And then if the client does like those pieces, at the next stage in design development, where that's when we look to find pieces that are a similar style, but within their budget and also available within the time frame that we need. So I will also put together a budget forecast at stage 2, and I do that using the Programa schedule. So the way that I do that is I'll go through the scope of work, and I'll put in each of the pieces that we need for the scope. So for example, for Snug Club, we need a sofa bed, we need a dining table, dining chairs, wall lights, put all those pieces in, and then put an arbitrary figure next to it. And that's intended for me to show the client at that concept meeting how I am going to manage their budget and how I propose managing it in terms of where I suggest spending more versus where I think we can save to achieve the optimal outcome. Okay, so then when the concept presentation is ready, I will deliver that concept presentation, and I am also going to show you what that concept presentation looks like, because following that meeting, what I can do is I can upload that concept presentation into Programa. I use Canva to create my concept presentations, and Programa have a really fantastic feature where you can use Canva embed, and that really makes it really easy to take the URL from Canva, copy paste it into Programa, and then I can share that to a client dashboard. So following my client presentation, the client can then go back and look through the presentation again, and which helps them to reflect on it and consolidate their feedback. So I'm going to show you what the concept presentation looks like for Snug Club. This is it here. So we have the design narrative, moving into the mood board, site inspiration, spatial plan and site analysis, the color palette. We presented 2 color palettes, and the client ended up moving ahead with color palette number 2. And yeah, just presenting ideas around upholstery, colors, lighting, dining concepts. And you can see the full concept presentation over on my Instagram account where I've shared it there as well. Okay, so I'm going to move ahead now. So once I've presented the concept presentation, that's when we're ready to move on to the next stage, which is stage 3, trade day. So trade day is a really important step, and it's a step that I brought into my design process after I did a training a couple of years ago with Lauren Lee from Sasala. And you might think, isn't it too early to start working with trades after you've only just presented the concept? But I found it to be a really invaluable stage to bring trades in early. It's important to help test the validity and just the feasibility of ideas before you get too far into specifying, and it helps to avoid any surprises. So for example, I bring in for Snug Club, what the trades that I needed to bring in were the electrician, the painter, the window dresser. I think they were the main ones. There wasn't any joinery. Oh, and we also have the team who are actually building the conversation pit upholstery. So the upholsterers were there as well. And so it was really handy to know where we could install wall lights from the electrician. There were some things that we needed to check with the window dresser because it's an apartment and there were sprinklers in the apartment, and how we were going to work around those for the windows. And so it just helped to anticipate any issues that we might have that could potentially impact on the specifications later on. So I coordinate that site meeting with all the relevant trades at one time. And during the meeting, we review the concepts on site, and then following the meeting, the trades will send me quotes, which were based on those proposed ideas. So the benefit of having the quotes at this stage is that I can then capture their quotes within the Programa master schedule, and I have a section in the schedule dedicated to trades. And this means that following trade day and before I'm about to start kicking off design development, I know exactly how much room I have left in the budget to play with when it comes to ordering furniture, lighting, art, fabrics, for example. So when it comes to your schedule within Programa, you can break that down in whatever way works best for you. I personally love to break it down by room. As Snug Club is essentially one big room, I've broken it down by zones. So I have within my schedule the conversation pit zone, the dining zone, the living zone, and the entry zone. And then below that, I have all the trade costs. And then I also have a separate section for delivery fees, courier fees. Okay, so with the trade quotes in place, I'm then in a position to move on to stage 4, which is design development. Okay, so stage 4 is where we refine the full schedule of selections. So this includes those key pieces, like the furniture, lighting, art, fabrics. I have found, in terms of when it comes to refining my process, I used to bring objects and styling pieces into stage 4, but I now find it works best to bring that out back into stage 6. So I will bring large pieces of art into stage 4, but smaller pieces of art will come later at styling stage. So in what I do to prepare for the design development presentation is I'll put together a presentation which provides the client with 1 to 3 options per piece. And I will assign a code to those options within the presentation, and that code aligns back to the codes that I have in the master schedule. Now, I think Programa really shines at this stage thanks to the capabilities of the scheduling tool. The big one being that you've got the option to either use the web clipper or the add from URL feature. So I was using the web clipper for most of my time with Programa. However, this year, in the last couple of months, they've rolled out the add from URL feature, and that has been a game changer yet again. Because you can simply copy paste the URL from the supplier's website, and it pulls all the relevant information from related to that particular piece straight into the schedule. So you save hours when it comes to data entry. And it's also incredibly accurate, and you're much less likely to make errors like as you would if you were manually entering that information. So I will add into the schedule all the items that I have in the presentation. So it all cross-references back to each other. The other things that I include in my design development presentation are the furniture floor plans, so they can see how those pieces look on the floor plan. And I'll also do 3D visualizations at this stage to really help sell the vision to the client. Okay, so after the presentation, I will upload the design development presentation again back into the client portal and share with the client a link to the dashboard, so they will be able to click through the presentation again afterwards, and again helps them to reflect on it and to consolidate their feedback. Okay, so moving on to the client portal. So the client portal is a feature that I really love about Programa because it's a centralized space for the client to access everything important related to their project. So I upload everything to the client portal that they could need, and saves them from having to go through and find important documents in email chains. So when my clients log into their portal, what they will be able to see is the pin board that I presented at the briefing meeting. They will see the fee proposal, the contract of sale, they will see the services agreement, the contract. They will also see the questionnaire that they completed at the briefing, because I'll upload that as well. Then after the concept presentation, they'll be able to see the concept presentation thanks to the Canva embed tool. And they will also be able to see the design development presentation following the design development meeting. The important thing that they can see after design development is the full schedule. So I will show you an example of what my schedule looks like for Snug Club. And this is how it appears to my client. So they'll be able to go in, they can see the financial information if you want them to see it. So you can customize what they're able to see. I'm really transparent with my clients when it comes to pricing, so they can click in and see the financial information. And then when my clients go in after design development, there's a section there called approval and feedback, and they can click into that. And following the meeting, what I will do on my end is change the status of pieces that are ready for client review. And once I change that status to client review, it puts it into the approval and feedback section. So when my clients click on approval and feedback, they will see the pieces there that are ready to either accept or reject. Okay, so for clients, I find that the dashboard really is a one-stop shop for them. So no more trawling through emails. Everything is neatly presented in one place. And another fantastic thing about the client portal is that you can customize it. So you can see that I have that hero image up the top, which I pulled from the concept presentation. That's the color scheme that we went with. And so it is a really bespoke, customized portal. And you can also put in your studio logo as well. Okay, so moving on to stage 5 procurement. So stage 5 procurement. When a client accepts a piece, that automatically triggers stage 5 procurement. Now, Programa makes procurement incredibly easy thanks to the fact that it has a dedicated purchase order management section, and it also has a dedicated invoice section. So the first thing I will do is I will generate purchase orders directly in Programa for any of those pieces that have been approved by the client. Then what will happen is the suppliers will send me the invoice, and I will make sure that the financial information on the invoice is accurate with the financial information that I have in the schedule. So so what that means is, with the financial information, you can capture what the RRP is, but you can also capture what the trade price is, and Programa highlights what that trade discount is as well. So once that information is all accurate, then you're ready to generate your first invoice for the client. So Programa has that dedicated invoice section. So you would go in and you can import the pieces directly from the schedule straight into your invoice. And depending on how you are remunerated for procurement, if you add on a percentage, then you can do that also within the Programa schedule. So you can add on your markup in the schedule, and then what that means is when you import that piece into your invoice, that markup price is already reflected, it's built in to that final price. Programa integrates with Xero. So I've integrated Programa with my Xero, which means that I can go in after I've generated the invoice in Programa, I log into my Xero and that draft invoice is sitting there. And you can choose to either send it from Xero or send it from Programa, whatever works best for your studio. Okay, so once the supplier, then once the client pays, I invoice the client then. Once they've paid me, I then go and pay each of the individual suppliers. And I have a really systematic process for recording the payments. So after I've made a payment, I will change the status of that item within the schedule to ordered. And Programa also has a procurement function within the schedule, which means that you can log what day you've ordered it, and you can also log what date you're expecting that piece to arrive and be shipped, be delivered, be installed. And these are all the key milestones that you can record. So I find when it comes to procurement, in terms of the functionality that Programa has, it ensures financial accuracy, there's clarity for compliance and complete transparency around pricing, and there's also a lot of efficiency when it comes to processing invoices and managing orders. Okay, so let's move now into stage 6. So stage 6 is the final stage, and it's design management and styling. What's included within my stage 6 is coordinating deliveries on site. So if my client needs me to accept deliveries on their behalf, if I need to resolve any issues, if anything arrives broken or damaged, and the time that I spend rectifying issues with suppliers is included within stage 6. Stage 6 also includes a final styling. So that's where I'll go out to local suppliers and get those final pieces like ceramics, small artworks, coffee table books, things like that. I find stage 6 is really hard to predict how much time you're going to spend. So stage 6 is the one stage where I charge my hourly rate, and that's why time tracking is particularly important at this stage, as it gives me visibility on exactly how much time I'm spending so I can be remunerated appropriately for that time. Okay, so the other great thing about Programa and using it for stage 6 is when it comes to generating that final handover document of warranties, because you can attach all the warranty information related to that piece within the schedule. So it's really easy to put together that final handover document at the end. And then when it comes to, one sec. All right, and then with regards to business intelligence, by the end of stage 6, I'm able to see exactly how much time I've spent on the project from stage 1 initial consultation through right to the end, that final style. So it allows me to analyze what the project profitability is, refine, which in turn helps me to refine my future fee proposals, and also capture all the lessons from that stage and evolve my process and future methodology as well. Okay, so the other thing that's included in stage 6 is preparing the space for professional photography. I just want to note that I don't charge my clients for the time that's involved in preparing for professional photography. Okay, so that is, in a nutshell, how I use Programa across every stage of my design process. And I just wanted to chat about the key benefits. So number 1 being centralized information. So all project data lives in one system, which means there's no double entry, there's no scattered spreadsheets, and it just saves you so much time from having to look through multiple documents to find the information that you need. And it's also a very professional looking interface. So when it comes to client communication, it's customized in terms of that branded dashboard. You are able to keep clients in the loop with real-time updates and approvals, and it cuts down that endless back and forth when it comes to approving pieces. So again, saving time going back and forth through emails. The capability of the client approvals section is incredibly efficient, and it just captures all the information that you need really neatly. Business scalability is a big one. So now I have clear visibility over what my pipeline looks like, and it means I can manage multiple projects confidently and quote more accurately using that historical time tracking data. And then when it comes to time optimization, well, Programa has so many features that help me to save time. So the web clipping and copy paste the URL are big ones when it comes to putting together your schedules. Also using those tools that are integrated, like the Canva embed, means that I don't have to send an email with the presentation attached. They can access the presentation via the dashboard. Also, integrating it with my Xero means that the process of putting together invoices is really quick, easy, and streamlined. Another feature when it comes to time optimization that I did forget to mention when it comes to the schedule is the ability to send out bulk quotes. So that you'll save so much time with the bulk quotes feature, because what it means, ahead of the design development meeting, I want to come to the client with a really accurate forecast on what their budget is looking like. And in order to do that, I do need to have the quotes from the suppliers. And as you know, many suppliers don't disclose pricing on their website, or if they do, you might not be aware of what the trade discount is. So the ability to send out bulk quotes with the click of a button, email multiple suppliers at one time, is a real incredible time saver. Okay, so those are the big picture benefits, and showing you how all the moving parts are connected in one place. And so thank you so much for your time today. And I'm going to hand over to Claire now, who's going to chat through a roadmap for implementing my 6-stage process.
All right. Thank you so much, Alessandra, for that incredible behind the scenes look at your process. I think as designers and creative people, it's really easy for these big pain points to live around the operational and the admin side of things. And how do we run a profitable business while still maintaining creativity and innovation? It's so easy to feel burnt out when we don't have the operations in place. So it's amazing to see how you've turned what used to be a sort of chaotic admin into a systematic workflow that actually supports your creativity rather than hindering it. So next, how do we implement this? We don't try to do everything at once. We'll take it step by step. So week 1, set up your CRM for inquiries. Create one project with 6-stage structure and start web clipping. Week 2, we launch our first client dashboard. Train one client on approvals. This is where you're going to start seeing that immediate impact. Week 3, timeline for the pipeline visibility, and then we're going to start time tracking, and we're going to time track consistently. That's important. This data will become crucial for pricing later down the road. Next is to scale. What works across all of our projects? Use that historical data to refine your pricing and processes. The transformation will become evident. The key is choosing to get organized and then really committing to staying organized. So if you're still here with us, we would love to open up the chat to any questions you have for Alessandra. We'll start doing some Q&A.
Hi, everyone.
Hello. Hi.
Can you hear me?
Yes, I can. All right. So starting out, Casey was wondering if you present these pin boards in person at a client's home, how do you present this to your clients?
Yes, if I can, always in person. If I'm working on a remote project and that's not possible, then we'll do it online, but I do prefer to do all my meetings in person.
Wonderful. Okay. And then let's see here. Are you giving hard copy versions of your warranty and your care tear sheets and this big folder of attachments we have? Are you still handing that over as a hard copy, or are you giving them access through a schedule or their client dashboard? How are you sharing that information?
I don't like to deal with paper, so no hard copies. I will upload the warranty as an attachment in the schedule. And then when my clients, because I give them full access to the schedule, they can click on that particular piece. If they scroll down, they will see the warranty attachment there.
Gotcha. Okay. And then Fern was wondering, how are you running your questionnaires?
Oh, yes. I use Google Forms for questionnaires, and then I can upload the questionnaire to the project. So when you click into project settings, there's two toggles. One is client dashboard. You click into client dashboard and you can upload anything that you can't embed directly into Programa. So because my questionnaire isn't on Canva, it's a Google form, I can attach it to the client dashboard through the settings related to the project.
Yes, wonderful. Okay. And then how are you managing estimates for freight and pieces you purchase for that final styling phase? Are you reconciling this at project completion? How are you running this part of the business?
So how am I estimating costs related to freight? Yes, that's a good question. I will put together an arbitrary figure for all freight related costs at the concept stage, and then that figure gets refined at design development. So at design development, when I go into that meeting, before I go, I will send off that bulk quotes. And so what that means is I have a good idea of where I'm sitting with the budget going into design development. The other good thing is I'll go into design development and I'm going to be presenting the client with 1 to 3 pieces. So I can, in real time, while I'm sitting there with them, change the quantity of, rather than putting in one chair, let's just say we're dealing with a sofa and I'm presenting 3 sofas. So rather than saying 1, 1, 1, I can put in 1 next to the sofa that's my favorite and have 0 quantity for the other 2. And then in real time, if they tell me, actually, we like the other sofa, I can change things around really quickly and be able to update them on where their budget is sitting. So, yeah, I hope that answers that question.
Yeah, I think so. Okay. And then do you give clients your builders names, or are you running everything through your company now?
So as a decorator, I'm not really dealing with builders. I have trades that I have built up a good relationship with over the years that I will recommend to my clients. And so if they want to go ahead and source additional quotes, they're more than welcome to. But I have like my electrician and my window dresser and my painter that I've been using across all my projects now for 3 years. And I share that with them openly. But I've never actually had to deal with a builder.
Yeah. Okay.
One of the benefits of being a decorator.
Yeah, definitely. Okay. Last one here. How are you captioning the margin on furniture items if you're sharing everything with the client via the dashboard?
Yeah. So I'm really transparent with my clients about how I'm remunerated for procurement, and I add on a fixed percentage fee. So I tell them that I will pass on my trade discount to them in full and then add on a percentage. They know that it's been included in my fee proposal and it's in the contract. So there's no surprises there for them. So they can see what the trade discount is. And because my percentage is fixed, I'm not changing that percentage depending on how big the discount is. I know some designers, they share the discount. Mine is just always the same percentage. Keeps it really easy.
Yeah, definitely. And you do have options with sharing on client dashboard, how much you want them to see versus not see as well. Yeah. Okay. And then how are you managing your meetings? How are you managing this? Are you putting it in project management? Is this living in a Google Calendar? How are you organizing all of this?
Yeah, so I like to lock in all of my meetings at the briefing meeting. So when I attend the briefing meeting, I will schedule in when we plan on having our concept presentation and when we have our design development presentation scheduled. And I will send them invites to that using like my Google Calendar. And then I'll put those dates also into project management. So have them as key milestones so I can see when I'm looking at timeline view, making sure I'm not doing too many big presentations all in the 1 week.
Yeah. Okay. Great. Wonderful. Okay. So I think that concludes our Q&A for today. Thank you so much for sharing with us. We truly appreciate all of your insight and your willingness to share. If you'd like to explore how Programa could work for your studio, you can start a free trial at programa.design. And if you missed any part of today's session, we'll receive the recording shortly. Thank you all for joining us again. And thank you so much, Alessandra, for sharing your expertise